They hit every stunt, every pyramid, every basket toss, clean. The crowd went insane. Their coaches were in tears. And then the scores came out. They didn't win. In most sports, the best performance wins. In competitive cheerleading, that's not always how it works. Because there's a scoring system so subjective, so protected, and so secretive that in some cases, the team that owned that mat walked away with nothing. Today we're breaking down 5 teams that were genuinely robbed of a gold medal. And in one case, the governing body admitted it. Before we get into the cases, you need to understand something about how competitive cheerleading is actually judged. Unlike gymnastics, where every skill has a fixed point value, cheerleading at the elite level uses what's called comparative scoring. What that means is, judges don't score you against a standard. They score you against the other teams competing that same day. Same routine, same execution, different day. You might score a 95 on Friday and an 87 on Saturday. And since 2017, the cheerleading world stopped announcing scores in real time. You perform, you walk off the mat, and you wait. Sometimes hours, for a number that will define your entire season and that you have no ability to appeal. So when I tell you that 5 elite teams were robbed of gold, understand, this isn't just about bad luck. This is about a system that makes robbery structurally possible. Let's start with the only case in history where the institution actually admitted it. Number 1, Power Cheer Toronto. The robbery they had to acknowledge. 2019, the Cheerleading Worlds, Orlando, Florida. Level 5, International Open. Large co-ed, Power Cheer Toronto, PCT, is a Canadian team. They travel to Worlds not just to compete, but to represent the entire Canadian program. This is their season, their everything. They hit their routine. And then something happened behind the scenes that had nothing to do with cheerleading, according to Jim Greeno, president of Cheer Canada. When 2 teams tied in the standings, an official tiebreaker process was required by IASF rules. That process never happened. Instead, an IASF director made an executive call, and that call kept 4 US teams in the running while pushing PCT to 4th place. A rule violation. Plain and simple. What happened next is almost unheard of in this sport. The IASF Rules Committee reviewed the error, acknowledged it, and awarded Top Gun All-Stars and Cheer Force Infinity as co-champions. PCT received the bronze medal they had been denied. This is the only documented case in world's history where a governing body said the words, "We got it wrong." One case, ever. Which tells you everything you need to know about cases 2 through 5. Number 2, Navaro College. 0.1584 points. That's all it cost them. If you watch Netflix's Cheer, you know Navaro. You know Monica Aldama. You know the pressure, the culture, the full-out mentality. NCA Daytona, 2021. Navaro hits their routine. By all accounts, one of the cleanest performances of their season. The crowd is electric. Then Trinity Valley Community College takes the mat. Final scores: Trinity Valley, 98.2292. Navaro, 98.0708. The difference? 0.1584 points. Less than 0.2 of a point. On a scale of 100, the Netflix cameras captured what happened next. Navaro athletes burst into tears when they heard the result. Not the dramatic kind of tears, the silent, devastated kind. The kind that comes when you gave everything you had and the number just doesn't match. Was Trinity Valley better that day? Maybe. They achieved near-perfect scores in certain categories. But here's what makes this feel like a robbery. In a sport with comparative scoring, with subjective execution deductions, with judges who are allowed to interpret a bobble however they choose. 0.1584 margin doesn't feel like justice. It feels like a coin flip with extra steps. Number 3, Spectator All-Stars, Skinny Legends. They won everything. Then Worlds happened. This case isn't about a human error. This case is about the system itself being the villain. Spectator All-Stars. Skinny Legends came into Worlds as one of the most dominant teams in their division that season. They had won competitions consistently. Their scores were high. Their routines were tight. And at the Cheerleading Worlds, arguably the most important competition in their division, they didn't make day 2. Not because they fell, not because they had a disastrous performance, but because at Worlds, unlike every other competition they'd competed at all season long, the scoring resets completely. No carryover, no context, no record of who you've been all year. Every day at Worlds is a blank slate. Judges start fresh. The same routine that won regional championship scores, differently when the judging panel changes and the comparative pool shifts. Spectator Skinny Legends weren't robbed by a bad call. They were robbed by a system that doesn't care what you did before you walk through those doors. Number 4. The 2016 World's Wet Floor Incident, when the arena became the opponent. 2016, the Cheerleading Worlds. Midway through the competition, something happened that had nothing to do with cheerleading skill. The competition floor got wet, not a little damp, wet enough that athletes were performing basket tosses, pyramid builds, and tumbling sequences on a compromised surface. And then the deductions came. Teams that slipped, adjusted, or showed the slightest instability received scoring hits. The same scoring hits they would have received on a perfectly dry mat. Coaches erupted. It was described as a heated argument between competition officials and the cheer community. Because here's the logic that makes no sense. You train for months for a surface that behaves a specific way. The surface changes. You're still judged as if nothing changed. One team's placement was so chaotic that the wrong team name was read aloud over the PA system. There was, according to witnesses, a total riot in the stands. Which teams took the hit for a floor they had no control over? We'll never know exactly, because the scores weren't explained in real time. They never are. Number 5. Every team since 2017. The robbery you can't see. This one is different because it's not about one team. It's about all of them. In 2017, the Cheerleading Worlds changed a policy that the competitive cheer community hasn't forgotten. They stopped announcing scores publicly. Before 2017, the NCA announced scores within minutes. CheerSport posted them on screens at the venue. You could watch your team compete, hear the score, and understand where you stood. After 2017, you perform. You leave the floor. You wait. Sometimes hours, sometimes until the next day. 4 results on a social media post. There is no mechanism to challenge a score. Per IASF rules, judges' decisions are final and will not be subject to review. No appeal, no explanation, no transparency. And here's what happens when information disappears. Conspiracy fills the vacuum. The cheer community started asking, why hide the scores? Who benefits from secrecy? Which gyms have connections to the judging panels? Some of those questions have answers, most don't. But the result is that every team competing at elite level since 2017 has operated in a system where their gold medal could be taken from them, and they'd have no way to prove it happened. That's not a robbery you see on camera. That's the slow kind, the institutional kind, the kind that's the hardest to fight. Here's what connects these 5 cases. None of these teams failed. PCT followed the rules. Navaro hit their routine. Skinny Legends dominated their season. The 2016 teams performed on a wet floor without collapsing. What failed them was the system they competed in. A system with no standardized judging criteria across panels. No real-time score transparency. No appeal process. And in the case of 2019, officials willing to break their own rules until public pressure forced them to admit it. Competitive cheerleading is a sport that demands complete precision from its athletes. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. 0 deductions. No margin for error. Maybe it's time to ask whether the judging system is held to the same standard. If you want to see the actual scoring rubric they use to decide who wins Worlds and exactly where the gray areas are, that breakdown is coming next.